Hey guys, Rudy here. Hadn't made a video in a while. I do have something I want to talk about. And the image about to show here is a dog treat display where they claim that I'll just read off. It's called High Hopes, All Natural Goodness for Your Pet, Real Hope for Homeless Ones. Help a homeless pet. You can see it on the bottom right there. The next image I'm about to show you is this cheese lovers dog treat. Help a homeless pet. And I believe the proceeds, or a percentage of the proceeds, or a percentage of their profits, go to helping homeless pets, quote unquote. I don't know about y'all, but the last I looked, the word for a homeless pet is a stray. And obviously, this is what caught my attention because it always seems like a degradation of language. For instance, being homeless is pretty serious business, right, for a person. But it's almost like the language gets muddled, it gets changed, it gets manipulated, and it's always twisted into something else. Because, like I said, I mean, there isn't much to say about it because a homeless pet is a stray. A homeless pet isn't a pet, like, period, because it's homeless. A pet, by definition, is something like that a person owns. So, for instance, if I have my cats, I take care of them. It's basically husbandry with my cats. And I make sure they're healthy. I feed them. I give them water, shots, pet visits, neutering, whatever. That's a pet. And a homeless pet is like an oxymoron. It's just doesn't exist. There's no such phrase. It's just a dumb word to tug at your heartstrings. When in reality, the name homeless should only be reserved for people, like actual people. And I don't know. Well, me and Karina noticed this. I talk about Karina a lot because I spent a lot of time with her at work. And we noticed this. We had a good laugh at it because she understands completely. Like when I say it's like they're just changing the language to sell a product, and it's disgusting. It's gross. Like they are degrading the word homeless to mean something else when there's already a word for that. It's called a stray. A stray animal. And even when you say stray animal, it's just a given that it doesn't have a home, and we're usually talking about cats or dogs. There's really no in between. What gets my attention about this is it's meant to divide. And I know a lot of y'all might be thinking this is a stretch, but this is just a microcosm of what the overall problem is when it comes to the language being changed on purpose in order to feed off of energy. Like, for instance, me and Karina noticed it. It kind of gets on our nerves, but we just laugh about it and move on. And you can make an argument I'm feeding it energy by paying attention to it and making an audio recording about it. And that's fine if you want to make that argument. I'm not going to really come back at you. And I'm okay with that because I'm here to talk about things. I'm here to talk about spiritual, the metaphysics, the religious aspect, because the world is rotten. Just completely, the roots are rotten. And stuff like this is just meant to divide and grab attention. Like the changing of these words is meant to grab attention. And it's always like you have to be on the defense and you can never play offense. It's just that. Like the not milk, the creeps, whatever word you want to give it, is always on the offense. You can never go on the defense because it's always going to be on the offense. You can't retaliate. You can't counterattack. So it's almost like you just bow out. You just walk away from the game. And it's like, for instance, with this homeless pet thing, a more conservative type like me would see why are they changing the language, and most people might not even catch that, right? Their eyes aren't open, and that's fine. Maybe they're better off that way. Maybe they're better off being asleep. And Dan Keeperts has talked about this, or at least alluded to it in his community post where he talks about NPC types and people with their eyes closed. And I don't really like the term NPC, but it's the best descriptor we got, I think. I do think all people, even the normie NPC types, are capable of waking up. And there's this kind of discussion going on. Let's just call it a fractal, because I think it is a fractal. This fractal of, are you an NPC? And I think Uncanny Deduction is the person who kind of put that out there, and I'm glad he did, because it's had me thinking for months now about, well, am I NPC? Am I? And to be honest, I know I can turn off the non-playable character aspect of my life. I can turn it off and on whenever I want, and it's like I understand the clown makeup that I have to put on every day in order to just make it in this world. Den Keeper said it best when he was saying we're just stuck in this game. It's almost impossible to bow out. You're just stuck in this cycle of, and I'm just gonna say the cycle of capitalism. And I love capitalism. Don't get me wrong. Maybe not love. Love's a strong word, but I'm not gonna poo-poo capitalism, because it's what brings food on the table. It keeps the machine going, and it honestly seems to be the only thing that's keeping the machine going. It's keeping the morality. It's keeping the people's morality in check, if that makes sense. Like capitalism, unfortunately, right? Because it's supposed to be spiritual. It's supposed to be God. It's not supposed to be secular ideas. It's not supposed to be money. It's not supposed to be capitalism that keeps people in check. But it's really, really unfortunate. That's the thing that's keeping people in check. That's keeping people from running red lights. Like it's keeping people from murdering your brother or whatever. It keeps you from being Cain. Is this secular world that we're living in? My overall point about this is just one little aspect that's meant to feed off your energy. It's meant to grab your attention, right? And it's all about and I made the video before, you have no free will. The only thing we're really in control of is our reactions, I believe. And what I mean by that is, when I look at this dumb sign, or this dumb dog treat for homeless pets, quote unquote, how much energy am I going to feed it? Am I going to get upset? It's to me, that's the only decision I can actually make. And it's not really my decision either, because I'm not going to give it energy. Like Karina and I just laughed about it. We had a good laugh. She understands it like I do, in the aspect of feeding energy. And we talked about the movie Monsters Inc. It's like that, like where you have creeps in the shadows feeding off of energy, and I think the overall message in that movie is that in the end, it was almost like it was laughter that gave off the most energy. Like they would harvest the fear, they would harvest the reaction, it would harvest the emotion, and in the end, laughter is still emotion. And in that movie, I have to watch it again actually, and the sequel. I think it's Monsters University. I want to watch that too, because Karina was telling me about it. She says it's got crazy messages in it as well. And in the end, it was laughter that harvested the most energy that the creeps needed and wanted. So they turned the world into a clown show. And I think that's the overall message. And it's always these children's movies that have this crazy imagery in it, and these crazy metaphysical messages. And I don't know to what extent it's on purpose, or if it's just a fractal flowing through all people on a creative level. And I've said before, there's no such thing as creativity in my videos about where I talk about Kim Jong-un and how he died and all that. I talk about how there's no such thing as creativity, because you're always borrowing ideas. So just going off of that alone, and it's easier to make a claim that it's just a fractal that's alive and flowing through people, and manipulating these creative types to give out this message. Monsters Inc. is a kind of an old movie at this point, so like how far back does it go? Like Pinocchio, I think it came out in the late 30s, something like that. It's a very old movie, but the metaphysical message and imagery in that is just through the roof. And it's like, where is this coming from? And I know these ideas are in the conscious as well, but how much of it is unconscious? Hey guys, Rudy here. I want to talk about this idea of the NPC and what it means to be an NPC and if we are NPCs. And I think to a degree, the NPC with people that have woken up, quote unquote, who are aware, who run in the truth or circles, who are a little more aware of the reality tricks, what this reality might be, the spiritual trauma. I've talked about this idea with a lot of people, especially online. Shout out to Den Keeper Truth, Ayers Point Project, and Kenny Deduction, Metaphysical Truth in Games. You know those cats who are always open to these ideas of. They're very open to the idea of that they might be an NPC, I might be an NPC. We're all NPCs, and I think I really do honestly feel that being an NPC is necessary if you can put on and remove the mask without much effort. When it becomes effortless, when it becomes like an effortless switch where you can just turn it off and on. Like the job I have to work is in customer service. I've been doing it for a while, and I can switch off that NPC persona very quickly. It's like I've used the analogy of a sharpened sword before in my Armic 21 tribute, where I said the masks we wear are like sharpened swords in a sheath, and we can pull them in and out whenever we want to defend ourselves or to be on the offense. And people are like trails of ants. I don't know if you ever watched a group of ants or a trail of ants just go down the same path, and you can't help but notice the black line that they leave behind because they're all kind of doing the same thing. But if you kind of look on the outer edge of the trail, you'll see little bitty, what I call divergents. Little diverger ants, scatter ants that aren't necessarily going around the crowd. They have their own role, right? But a lot of times, just try it one day. Go out and look for an ant pile and just watch them, because you'll find the group that are necessary for keeping the hive alive, or whatever, the ant colony alive, and you'll have the divergents who go out, who are kind of just doing their own thing. Either they're looking for food, or who knows what they're doing, right? I call them divergents, and that's what we are. People like me, people like you, you're the divergent in this reality. The world, in order for this reality to function, just like the ant colony, the majority of the ants need to be NPCs. They need to be worker ants in order for the reality to function. If that makes sense. I'm pretty sure I'm getting my point clear across on that. NPCs are important to keep the world running, is basically what I'm saying. Because without them, without people that are asleep, and I'm starting to realize this, because I witness it every day. The people that come into my store, they spend their money on junk, and they're the ones kind of keeping the capitalist system going. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. I would call them moral capitalists. And I talk about the moralists, right? The moralists, the Christian moralists. I'm not necessarily talking about Christians, but I've talked about the Christian moralists, just to give an example, the people that need the 10 Commandments in order to function, in order to make sure they're not killing each other, right? At the very basic level, right? At least they're not killing each other. And the fear of God is the only thing that keeps them in check. And that's capitalism, by the way. To me, that's what, especially the American machine, if you're in the United States, I'm pretty sure it's in other countries too, but I'm just using America as an example because it's my home country. And it's just easier to relate. Like, you're a gear in a larger picture. You're keeping the machine going, the capitalist machine. And it's this ideal of currency, this ideal of money, this fiat currency we use. It's the idea of you need to show up to work because you're not going to be able to live. Well, you can live, but it won't be you'll be a little more, certain degree of misery that comes along with not working. Let's put it that way. And I witnessed it in my mother. I'm not going to get into that, but my mother didn't want to work. Where I was raised on Social Security, she didn't want to work, and there is a large degree of misery that associated with that I won't get into. If you're born in the welfare, if you were raised on the welfare system, you already know what I'm referring to, because you just know. You know what that system does to people. It's meant to demoralize and keep you down. And there are ways to uplift yourself, but I'm not going to get into that either, because it's not what this video is about. I'm talking about the society of NPCs and how this idea of moral capitalism is the only thing keeping the gears turning. It's the only thing that's keeping people from killing each other. Instead of God, right? Which, I don't know. It's kind of crazy what I think, because in a big way, and when I say secular, I mean materialists. And when I say secular Christians, I'm really saying materialist Christians who don't worship God. They worship the Bible, they worship the church, they worship these idols. Especially the Catholics, they worship statues. I talked about Our Lady of Guadalupe, Virgin de Guadalupe. They worship the statues of that and whatnot. And it's all secular shit rather than spiritual. And whenever you encounter your normie friends and they're not, let's just say, just for argument's sake, let's say they're not on your level when it comes to spirituality or Christianity, because I consider myself a Christian, and a lot of people don't like that word. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not apologizing for anything. You're just going to have to deal with it. And I know a lot of you would think, it's kind of a different topic I'll get into for a second, but a lot of you would think, how can he call himself a Christian knowing full well that it's a setup from reality? And it's like, because, and it's not like I think, to me, Christianity is the acknowledgement that there is a path to perfection. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect man living on earth today. And when I say I'm a Christian, it's an acknowledgement of Jesus Christ was the closest we came to having the perfect godlike man in this realm, in this material, secular realm full of the secular humans, the secular people. The 666 beast, the mark of man. Out of all throughout history, Jesus Christ was the closest we came to. And that's an acknowledgement. To me, when I say I'm a Christian, that's what I mean. I'm saying, when I acknowledge that I'm a Christian, I'm saying that there is a way, there's a path. And I'm not one of these Christians who's going to say, oh, you need to go in front of the church and you can proclaim Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. I don't mean that at all. Don't do that. Don't be compelled to do anything like that ever. I haven't done that. I'm not going to do that. I don't have to do that in front of people. All I do is just like a simple nod of my head will do. Because I think the way he acted throughout at least the last half of his life, right? Because we don't know what happened between his we don't know what happened in his teenage years and his young adult years. We just know what happened in his 30s up until the day he was crucified. And his responses and his parables were the way he handled other human beings with no fear, no anxiety, no emotion was perfect. The perfect man. Anyway, it's not necessarily what the video is about, but that's what I mean when I say I'm a Christian. And as for these other people who claim to be Christians, they're materialist Christians. And I'm not saying all of them, because I'm pretty sure there's one or two out there, maybe in the town I live in, that feel the same way I do, which is, where we may as well be miles apart in that regard, because I'll probably never meet them. What I really wanted to get into was this idea of the importance of the NPC in order to keep this world going, this secular material world going. And I don't see it getting any better, to be honest. And the best thing we can do is fend for ourselves. And you're the divergent, right? Like I said, but you also have to acknowledge, and you'll have to acknowledge, it's important for us to acknowledge that we are also lumped into these group of normies and NPCs, because we have to interact with the world in some way. Even if you're a hermit in the mountain fending for yourself, you're going to have to interact with other people at some point. And learning to get along is just part of the deal. And I enjoy talking to people. I really do. Like, I've had some deep conversations with people, and I've had some shallow conversations with people. And I know when I can turn that on and off. Like I told you with the conservative plumber guy who had to fix our sink, and he started spouting about conspiracy, and I just politely tried to get off the subject without being rude. I know how to handle people in that regard. I'm not rude about it. I'm not trying to be holier than thou with anyone. I know my limits. And this is a system we can't escape. Like I said, even if you're a hermit in the woods, in the mountains somewhere, you can't escape this secular material system, this NPC system. Like, you just have to accept the fact that you're stuck. And just take it as a blessing, because these are lessons that there's limitless potential in the number of lessons you can learn from dealing with the NPCs, dealing with the normies. But I think it's a real shame that instead of spirituality, instead of God, we have to lean back on this capitalist system. And I don't hate capitalism. I've expressed that many times in my videos. It's like I'm not against capitalism, only because it encourages people to get out there and work and to build things and to make things. And there's a lot of ego involved when it comes to doing things like that. And like when it comes to charity, a lot of people, they can't give to charity without getting something back, either clout or recognition, or, like, for instance, donating blood. Like, a lot of times they give you an incentive, like $30 or $25 gift card to Wally World or whatever. And some people, and I don't know, like, even when I find myself giving change to a homeless guy, there's something inside me that wants acknowledgement from something, either from other people or God or something. And it's like, it's so hard to just shut that off, like a leaky faucet, right? And we just gotta accept it. I just kind of stopped judging myself and realizing it's the ego, trauma-bound existence mind that's craving that. It's the way I've been raised all my life, and everyone else too, right? We've been trained to have this egocentric existence, and it's very hard to break off. And I still struggle. And struggle's not really the right word. I don't feel like it's that big of a struggle, but it's still like a wall with a crack in it that I just gotta accept the fact that I'm gonna have to take a chisel and hammer and kind of just chip away at it, and try to find some joy in it, try to find some fun, take pride in it. Like, I don't know if in this case, if pride is a good or bad thing. I think it's okay to have a little pride, right? I think everything's okay, and if you just put limitations on yourself. It's just about it's just about listening to our inner knowing when it does come about. And I think laughter is the closest thing we get to knowing our inner selves, our real selves, whoever it is that may be outside of the avatar that's looking down on us. And when you laugh at something, whether it be a comedian or maybe it's you're having a discussion online. Or I think laughter is the closest you get to the real you without the ego involved, because to me the ego tends to block a lot of truth, and I think it was designed that way on purpose so we could get over that ego. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say, guys.